What's going on, guys? Wanted to jump back on for our monthly market update, looking back over September. A lot happened in September. A lot of good stuff. Had quite a few new clients come on. So welcome to the new people. Hope for the ones that are getting their first monthly market update here. You'll be receiving these now every single month going forward, giving a little bit of a recap of what happened in the markets, what's going on with the portfolios, all that sorts of stuff. Had my birthday over this past month, so that was a lot of fun. But the markets were terrible. It was pretty volatile month of September. Unfortunately, September is historically like the worst month of the markets every single year. It's just kind of how it's been. It's a trend, and it's an unfortunate month for that to always land on my birthday. But that's another story. So, anyways, let's jump in here. We'll talk a little bit about what's been going on. So, October 6th today, as I'm recording this, about last 5 days here, looking at the major indexes, bonds have been kind of lagging a little bit, down, a little over a percentage point here. Dow relatively flat here throughout the beginning of October. S&P up marginally, less than 50 basis points here. NASDAQ, tech heavy index, which has been leading the way kind of the entire year, up almost 2%. So beginning of October, not looking too bad here. Looking over the last month throughout September, everything was down. There's a lot going on, as I'm sure you guys have been seeing. But just look at the numbers really quick. S&P had the worst month, down a little over 4%. Dow Jones down 3.5%. NASDAQ down 3.5%. And again, the bond ag index down a little over 2.5%. So everything got kind of smoked in September. A lot of headwinds that we were facing. Also, we've been in a bull market here for the majority of the year. Everything's been rallying pretty well, as you guys are aware of. So it's customary. It's not always linear. We talk about this all the time. There's going to be volatility. I wish everything just went up in a straight line and we just knew exactly what was going to happen. But, with how well everything's been doing this year, it's not surprising that we're seeing a little bit of a pullback here. Very, very small. Couple of things that are really happening. The tech rally is fading a little bit. As hard as the NASDAQ got hit last year, if you guys remember, it was down almost 40% last year. All those big tech names that everyone's pretty familiar with. That rally that the NASDAQ has been experiencing, is pretty frothy at this point. And it just hasn't been going forward as hard as it was in the beginning of the year. I mean, again, that's pretty customary. 30-year mortgage rates hits almost 7.5% here. That's the highest that they've been since December of 2000. So the continual increase in interest rates that the Fed's been giving us, we're feeling it. Consumers are feeling it. So, that's obviously a major headwind that the market's facing as well. Talks of the government shutdown. This seems to come up quite often, but again, just any sort of negative news, it's going to spark volatility. There's going to always be another boogeyman. I mean, it's almost like every single month, it's something new and crazy that's going on that I end up talking about on this. But yeah, we'll see. Government might shut down for a couple of days. Not the first time that it's happened. Not the first time that they've talked about this. But yeah, causes a little bit of spookiness, eeriness in the markets. Markets hate uncertainty. The markets love when they know exactly what's going on. We know what the political agenda is. We know what policies are coming up. But when the market is a little bit unsure of what's happening in the future, it always causes a little bit more volatility. So another big one. Student loan repayments began on October 1st. This is a huge one. I actually just recorded a podcast about it here about an hour ago. But there were so many people that ended up, they've just been banking on the government wiping this clear and refunding them now for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years. I actually was at a dinner the other night where someone told me that their friend's financial advisor told this person to not worry about paying off their student loans and go ahead and start buying some other things, just because they said, for sure, the government's going to refund everything. And now look at where you're at. It's kind of unfortunate because when that happens and when we have a little bit more money coming into our pocket, people don't normally just put that money aside into a high yield savings account and, just wait to see, just in case the government doesn't bail us out, at least we have the money ready. No, that never happens. What people normally go out, they buy more things, they buy new cars. They maybe buy a home that they weren't planning on. They end up having lifestyle increases. It's just, behavioral economics. It's the way that most people function. So now, all of a sudden people have been getting used to having these new toys, these new luxuries in their life. and they were not having to pay on these student loans. So once these student loans are re-hitting now, a lot of people, I think, you know, budgeting wise, it's going to get a lot tighter. People might have to have some fire sales on some things, but yeah, it's been a major discussion. I've been advising that all of my clients that have student loans pay them off throughout the duration of this time, especially while they weren't accruing interest. It's so much easier to pay them off while they're not accruing interest. Now that that's turned back on, yeah, it's a major issue for some people. So that's obviously going to be a headwind as well. But yeah, so this last month, beginning of the month, looking a little bit somber. I mean, through September, sorry. But looking year to date here, the major indexes, again, NASDAQ has killed it. The market's just the market as a whole. Everybody says, oh, the stock market's done so well this year. Well, not really. Honestly, it's been the 4 or 5 companies, your Facebook, Amazon, Tesla, a couple of the big hitter tech stocks have done great. And that's why you're seeing this NASDAQ up close to 40% this year. But realistically, S&P's up marginally, 12%, had a decent year, but again, being led by 3 or 4 of those main stocks. The Dow is flat and the bond ag index is down on the year. So yeah, I mean, again, when you're looking at the indexes, the market has seemingly done decent, but it's really being led by 4 or 5 of those main companies. That's where the majority of the push has been coming. So kind of looking at what we see moving forward, a couple things that I want to show you here really quick. This was a big one that I was reading today. Oh, highlighted everything. But anyways, the Fed is also watching the bond markets, as Fed official Mary Daly said Thursday, that if long-term bond yields remain around current levels, then policymakers may not need to raise interest rates again. The rallies in yields continued Friday. Yeah, we don't need to read the rest of that. But moral of the story here, this is what we've been talking about, guys. This is what we've been waiting for. At some point in time, the interest rate hike cycle is going to come to an end. Historically, they're going to cut rates at some point. I don't know when they're going to do that. Nobody really does. I wish I had a crystal ball. I would be a bajillionaire, but it's going to come. It's going to happen at some point in time. The Fed's going to get to a spot where they say, all right, inflation has been brought back down to a level that we need. We do not want to keep raising rates. They obviously don't want to cause a recession. I don't think that we're going to. I don't see a recession coming in the short term here. But obviously they don't want the market to crash under their watch. So they're being very careful with it. And this is great news to start seeing, that potentially they may not need to raise interest rates again. That's going to be a huge catalyst for the markets when they come out and say for sure they're done and or that they're going to cut. I think we're going to see a huge spike in the market and get a very quick rally there. So something that we want to be prepared for. Okay, next thing here that I wanted to show you guys really quickly, talking about a Goldilocks situation. So you might have been here, you might have heard this being thrown around in the market before, but what's a Goldilocks market? Well, going back, this is way back in the memory bank, Goldilocks and the 3 bears. They want to have the porridge not too hot, not too cold, but just right. So what does that mean within the market? Well, a Goldilocks market basically means that the economy is growing at 4% annualized with a 3.2% year-over-year inflation number. So that's just kind of the sort of parameters that we're looking for when we're talking about a Goldilocks market. And basically the Goldilocks market just means that we should be really bullish moving forward is what that means. So where we're currently at, we're close to those numbers, believe it or not. And that's why, a lot of people are very bullish here kind of moving forward. So kind of just looking here at how close we are to those Goldilocks numbers. Of course, Jerome Powell, Fed chairman, has been long warning that rate hikes meant economic pain. Sticky inflation required higher unemployment rates and likely a recession. Well, right now, before we were at 9.1% year-over-year inflation, and that's obviously scary. And when we were seeing a lot of these rate hikes happening and all these headwinds started in the market was terrible last year. We know this. But now we're getting closer to a year-over-year 3.2% annualized inflation. That's getting, right around those Goldilocks numbers. And GDP is at 2.5% growth, which exceeds virtually all expectations. So not quite at that 4% annualized growth number, but again, we're kind of close to where that Goldilocks situation is right in front of us here. So it kind of makes sense why people are starting to get a little bit more bullish. And I really like what they were talking about down here as well. You know, not that we think about a bull market and it just seems like it should be never ending. It just goes and goes and goes. Well, the phase of any young bull market often has 1 or 2 short-term breaks per year, and they can slam stocks by as much as 10 to 20%. But it is also common for no big downside volatility. So again, it's not that rare that we see a couple bad months. You know, a month like September in the middle of a bull market, that's customary. That's common. It's not something to get freaked out about. On the positive side, the fact that Goldilocks showed up at the house at all showed that people can envision a better future. But brace yourself for a few more ups and downs while the Goldilocks get chased around the cottage by the bears, which again, I completely agree with. I think that we're going to continue to have some volatile waters, especially with elections coming up, until we get some more positive news from the Fed. I mean, they're teasing the idea of stopping the interest rate hikes. They haven't come out and actually said, we're done. We're not going to raise anymore. And we're actually thinking about cutting now. That hasn't happened. So kind of something that I also just like to look at here, looking over the past year, even through, or sorry, let's look at the 3 years, go out a little further, even through all of the volatile waters, even through 2020 last year and how bad everything was. If you had just been invested and stuck through it, again, the S&P's up here about 25%. Over the last 10-year period, the S&P's up 155%. NASDAQ has killed it, up 360%. But it's just a constant reminder that I like to have with people because, and rightfully so, people have the questions of, hey, Hunter, what's going to happen in the next 3 months? What's going to happen in the next 6 months? You know, honestly, we don't need to worry about that because we're investing in positions that we see fit for the next 5 to 10 years. For short-term dollars, if you're in the position where you're at or near retirement and we start to need to use some of that money as income, we're going to have buckets of money that are kicking off that income base for you. And that bucket of money isn't going to be worried about market volatility. But when we're in growth mode and we have more aggressive buckets of money, we have to be thinking more long-term because we don't know what's going to happen in the short term. I mean, again, there could be another COVID strain. There could be wars, whatever happens with the political elections. There's so much noise that comes up. But when we kind of take our lens back a little bit and look from a wider angle in a longer time frame here, people are always rewarded for being patient. If we panic every time one of these dips happens here and we sell and we want to make major changes, that's where people get hurt. So again, I am looking forward to the next couple of years here. I do think there's going to be some short-term volatility. I know that we're getting closer to the end of the rate hike cycle, which is going to be a major catalyst for the markets. But again, we have some headwinds facing us here in the short term. I think it could still be volatile to finish out the year. So if you do have any questions at all about your specific portfolio, definitely feel free to call. I have gone through and done most everybody's semi-annual reviews. If you have not had yours yet and you are still looking to do so, I'm going to be continually bugging you to get those done before the end of the year. But feel free to reach out. Let me know a few days that work best for you and we'll make it happen and get together. So again, I hope that everybody had a great September. Looking forward to October. And if there's anything that I can do in the meantime, don't hesitate to give me a call. All right, guys, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.